The town of Red Hollow was a place where trust was a luxury and betrayal a common currency. The streets were carved by wagon wheels, the saloon always humming with whiskey and lies, and the sheriff's badge often bought for a handful of coins. And yet, on the edge of this unforgiving land, two souls collided in the strangest of ways. Her name was Anna Whitlock. Life had not been kind to her. The scars of survival showed in her eyes, hard, sharp, unwilling to bend. She had been sold once, abandoned twice, and hunted always. The revolver in her hand was the only promise the world had ever kept, the promise that she had to fight for herself, or she wouldn't last. Tonight, that revolver was pointed straight at the chest of the one man who refused to walk away. Matthew Kane, the rancher. The sun was sinking low, casting long shadows across the dusty trail that led to his cabin. He stood tall, broad-shouldered, his weathered hat pulled low. The glint of iron in her shaking hands didn't rattle him. He had stared down barrels before. Many, in fact, but none like this. For this wasn't just a gun. It was a shield. A wall. Her last defense against a world that had stripped her bare. His voice was quiet when he spoke. "Go on, then," he said. "If you reckon I'm like the rest, pull that trigger." Her breath came fast, uneven. Tears blurred her vision, but her grip was steady. "Don't come closer," she snapped. "Don't you dare." He took one step, then another. Slow, deliberate. His boots crunched in the dirt, the sound too loud against the trembling silence of her heart. "I ain't leaving," he whispered, voice as steady as the ground beneath their feet. "Shoot if you must, but I ain't leaving you." The words struck her harder than any bullet could. Memories crashed against her, men who had promised only to vanish. A father who left her, a husband who sold her. Every voice in her head screamed that this man would be no different. That kindness was a trick. That love was a lie. And yet, he didn't flinch. His gray eyes, shadowed beneath his brim, held hers. Calm, steady, not pitying, not mocking. Just there. Like he had been carved from stone that could not be moved. Her hand shook now, the revolver rattling against her own breath. Her knees weakened. "Why? Why won't you leave? Everyone else does." "Because," he said, voice low and rough, "you're worth staying for." The gun slipped from her hand. It hit the dirt with a thud that echoed louder than gunfire. And then, as if every wall inside her had finally broken, she collapsed to her knees. Matthew was there before she hit the ground, his arms steady as they caught her trembling frame. She fought him at first, weak blows, angry sobs, but he held her gently, never tightening, never forcing, just waiting, like the earth waits for the rain. And slowly her fists stilled. Her sobs quieted. She leaned into him, her face buried against the chest of a man who had chosen to stay when no one else had. That night, he didn't ask for promises. He didn't demand trust. He simply stayed. By the fire by her side, whispering words that anchored her storm. And for the first time in years, Anna Whitlock slept, not as prey, not as a prisoner, but as a woman who had been seen. Weeks passed. The revolver remained on the mantel, untouched. The fear didn't vanish overnight, but every time she woke to find him there, mending the fence, tending the horses, placing bread in her hands without a word, she began to believe. One evening, as the sun bled into the horizon, she picked up that revolver again. But this time, her hands didn't tremble. She walked out to the porch, where he sat whittling wood, his hat tilted low. She placed the revolver beside him. "I don't need this anymore," she said softly. Matthew looked at it, then at her, his eyes warm beneath the brim. He nodded once, simple and sure. "You don't," he agreed. For the first time in her life, she smiled, because a man who whispered, "Shoot if you must, I ain't leaving," had proven that staying was more powerful than any weapon she had ever held.